Welcome to Common Ground. Your host, Fernandito Osa, sitting in for Sheriff Steve W. Thompson. Today, we're celebrating a big day. Today, we are celebrating the Super Bowl 51, the New England Patriots. And what a day it is. It's an amazing day for us here in Boston, as it's celebrating right now at Boston City Hall. So we are feeling very good. And of course, 5 rings and bringing that Lombardi trophy is amazing. But all with the show. So today my guest is Anna. Anna is the Positive Parenting Initiative, Longwood Care, Inc. And she's going to tell us a little bit about, her organization and more. So let me welcome Anna. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Tell me your full name, because you have a name that I couldn't pronounce, so I beg that you just work with me.
My name is Anna Svetchnikov.
There you go.
I know it's a hard one, so that's okay.
All right. Tell me a little bit about your initiative.
So Positive Parenting Initiative, it's something that started from the Longwood Care. Longwood Care is the nonprofit organization based on the North Shore. Originally, I'm a marriage and family therapist, licensed marriage and family therapist, so I work with a lot of families. And I started noticing the patterns that a lot of families bringing their kids into therapy, they're struggling with behavioral issues. And there's always one of the treatment plan goals is parenting. And this is something that, as I said, a lot of families are struggling in. So I said, well, this is interesting. So this is something that needs to be taken care of. This is why parents coming in. And I start going into a lot of trainings and looking up a lot of videos, reading a lot of books. I went to a lot of different things, symposiums, and trying to find out what are some of the supports they can bring to these parents. Being family therapist, it's not just, you don't have a class on parenting, which is unfortunate. I think there should be a class on parenting, because if you're not a parent yourself, which I am. I'm a parent, but I didn't know how to support this parent. So I started learning, and I came up with this plan with a program. So the whole point is that a lot of the behaviors are stemming, in children, are stemming from unmet needs of the children. So we see kids, let's start with toddlers, you go to supermarket, and this is the classic example I use a lot. You go to supermarket and you see a toddler crying on the floor, and you're like, oh my God. If you're not a parent, you're like, yeah, that family. And then if you're a parent and your child is on the floor crying, asking for another toy, and a lot of parents, they do not parent in public, as I would say. They don't know how to respond. There's audience watching them, so sometimes they just buy that toy just to stop the tantrum. But what happens, they get the immediate satisfaction. So the child stops crying and you can continue with your shopping, grocery shopping. But then if you give in once, your child learns that this is how to get what he wants. So next time when you come to the store and your child wants something, he will cry longer, he will cry louder, because he knows it works with you. So for parents, the Positive Parenting has a lot of online support for parents, as well as hands-on supports in the community. That this is something I'm trying to put in place right now in local libraries. On Saturdays, you can come in for an hour and you can learn about some of the things. I would say one-on-one parenting, or how to parent children with special needs, what it is. It's a lot of mostly psychoeducation, or different things, how to support teens. Kids don't go to school, how to handle that, going from toddlers to teens, what are some of the difficulties parents have to face. So, and the positive parenting, another side of positive parenting is the training for clinicians. As I mentioned, I noticed that not a lot of clinicians are fully trained and how to support parents. And a lot of clinicians just help parents cope. But what I'm trying to do to bring the impact, to change and reverse the interaction, to have that positive change within the family. So it's not just you're telling the parents that yes, children behave and this is awful, and you have to live with it. I'm trying to give parents the toolbox how to address certain behaviors. I'm also presenting at the conference, Marriage and Family Conference, this upcoming March. And this is my first step to educate clinicians, social workers, marriage and family therapists, mental health counselors, psychologists, of like what are like the behaviors are, there's a core for the behavior, they're stemming from something, and usually that's the unmet needs. And there are different types, major types of behaviors, and how to handle each behavior, what you can do as a clinician, as a provider, and as well for parents, what they can do. So the online program that I have available, and which I'm still working on developing, parents can go in and they can watch the video. Like I'll have the short specific videos on parenting. So for example, if you're a parent of a toddler, you can go straight and watch like how to handle the supermarket issue, or like if you go like to a birthday party, how to decrease separation anxiety when the parent goes to work and the child stays at home or daycare, with a relative and stuff like that. And then for teens, if you're a parent with a teen, and let's say your child is refusing to go to school, is missing curfew and stuff like that, how would you handle that? So it's really specific, and I know parenting, challenging, takes a lot of time, and we're all busy, so we don't have time as parents for like a long, like an hour video. So that's why I'm developing the short videos, 2 to 3 minutes long, with specific lessons. So there's something parents can take away from. I'm really solution focused. There's always has to be something take away for me. So, and I know it is helpful for me. So that's why I'm trying to make it helpful for others.
Well, Anna, you started really. It was a lot of information that you said, so I'm going to kind of go back a little bit, and then obviously you'll take me through a little more of your initiative, and we have some photos we'll show in a little bit. But just for the viewers, so they know, you are a licensed family and marriage counselor or therapist, and what I wanted to kind of go back was that scenario you mentioned about a child at a store, going through a crying tantrum. Sometimes, you're right. We have to reward our children in order to keep them calm and a little collective in that moment. But, it does begin at home. It does begin with communication. It does beginning to know child behavior. But sometimes there's a lot of things that also sometimes parents are taken off guard as well, because sometimes this is when you discover things about your children that you might not know. Some type of, something that might be picked up either at a doctor's office, some condition, some medical condition, areas of sometimes of the tandems themselves is like you mentioned, they try to emulate other kids that have been able to go through these motions, and they copy a lot of things of that nature. But in all, yes, I wonder if some of those things that you're talking about also might have to do, because sometimes children are diagnosed in certain areas, and that's a little more complex there to kind of deal in live when you're out there in the community and dealing with the child on the moment. So are those scenarios also taken in factor, that children might be under medication or under-medicated or not diagnosed in those areas, that sometimes it becomes where that needs to be?
Definitely. I mean, it is, it makes it more difficult to handle, and when kids are on medication, and then when they're kind of like in between medication. So it definitely takes an effect, but I think that once we know how to handle certain scenarios, it makes it easier for parents. So I know a lot of clinicians, they really use medication or sometimes diagnosing as the crutch. And for some reason, United States has the most kids with ADHD. I mean, is it because United States has a lot of kids with ADHD, or it's because a lot of kids are diagnosed because, they're, like really active kids, in Europe, for example, kids, if they're active, they are, like trying to have the output for their, activity. They can do different things. They're allowed, but, here we can, a lot of clinicians, for some reason, put kids on medication, which sometimes it is needed, but I feel like sometimes it's just like a little advice with parenting, a little help with parenting would help to resolve those issues.
And it's important you say that because there are times when I talk to fathers, and obviously, you know, they become a father before they learn how to be a father. And, you know, when you become a parent, there's nothing given to you the day you're leaving and say, this is the book you need to read on how to be a parent or a father or a mother. And sometimes, you know, it's a learning curve. You know, we all learn. But I think, you know, also, we learn also by example. So if our parents, if we're lucky enough to have them there, and they showed us a model, then we emulate that, and then we teach our sons and daughters or grandkids the same model. But sometimes when there's a missing parent, a single parent, then you're dealing with a lot of complexes, you know.
It is difficult. It is difficult for single parents because you have to be the you know, the strict parent, and then they have to be the loving parent. So sometimes it's really hard to combine both. So when you have two-parent household, you know, there's always one who is the strict one, and then one who is always like, you know, taking care of her child. But it also can be a little bit more difficult because sometimes parents are not on the same page, and children know how to maneuver between the two parents. So that's kind of like one big thing that parents were coming to me for advice is, how do we handle this? You know, like we have some consequences, we have, you know, like rewards, but still it's not enough. Parents have to kind of find that common ground and have, you know, same rules. You know, if one parent says no, then when the child goes to second parent, the second parent has to be on the same page. So it's kind of like the difficulty for two parents as well. But then, as I said, there's definitely single household, two-parent household. It's not easy to be a parent. It's a tough job.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, so your initiative, you know, is we have spoken about this, you know, early, and your initiative has a campaign. I'm Not Bad, and you actually brought some photos of young kids that we're looking at right now that says I'm not bad. What does that mean? I'm not bad. And I know there's been the No Bullying Act and all that kind of stuff. But what is I'm not bad? What did that mean by that?
So I had an idea for this campaign for a while now. It was still in working, and I was trying to come up with a name. So my original name was Unsilencing Children, Giving Children a Voice. But then I come up with I'm Not Bad name. So why I'm not bad? Because in my office, parents bring in kids, and kids could be behaving at school, behaving at home, showing a lot of aggressive behaviors. And parents bring those kids in and say like, hey, here's my kid, fix him, I'll see you in an hour. And I'm like, well, it's not that easy. If I work with your child, I have to work with you at least the same amount of time as I work with your child, if not more. The way I'm trained, I'm the relational, I'm taking relational approach. I'm not looking for the problem with an individual. I'm looking for dysfunction within their interaction and communication. So this is where it comes from. So, and in many cases, children are being the scapegoats. You know, like they behave. And, you know, a lot of parents would say, you're bad. And what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to separate. So, you know, like, it's important to never tell your child that he's bad. You can be upset at his bad behaviors, which is different, you know, but you can't say to your child that he is bad. They, when they're young, they internalize the messages. And sometimes they start acting accordingly. You know, if this child is always being told that he's bad, he will start accordingly to meet the parents' expectations. And
sounds like they start believing what you say to them.
Yes, and this is, you know, that becomes a reality. You know, they learn from us, from parents, and you know, one of the messages that was in my campaign is, you know, I'm trying to give children a voice. So like all the messages that's in campaign, something that I heard from my clients, something that their parents are not, like, never heard from them. So for example, I want to be just like you, but every time I act like you, I get in trouble. So this is the message directly related to modeling behavior from the parents. So as parents, we are the role models for the kids. But then when, you know, like, let's say child swears in school and he comes home and he gets in trouble, but then you swear at home all the time. And then how can you punish your child for something you're doing all the time? You know, and stuff like that. When you get upset, you scream at your child, and then your child screams at his younger brother, and then he gets upset, and then he gets in trouble, you get upset. But then when you think, when did he learn this? Mm-hmm. You know, we see a lot of like behavioral kids who hit, right? And then, you know, some parents, they, you know, spanking. Why I advocate against spanking, you know, like there needs to be consequences. But, you know, when you have a physical consequence, you know, your children learn that like when you get upset, you hit. Right. So when I get, as a child, when I get upset, I'll hit too. Mm-hmm. This is normal. This is what my parent taught me to do. Right.
So we're going to move on a little bit. You also became the Mrs. Massachusetts USA 2017. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, because that's a different role. I mean, you are what we just finished talking about is a family therapist and marriage counselor. But tell us a little bit about that role. What does that lead up to?
So this is really interesting. I used to compete in pageants when I was a teenager. I have several crowns, something I liked. But when I came, I would call adult, in my early 20s, I would think that I'm done with pageants. You know, this is not a serious role to be pageant queen. I mean, I'm a serious person now. I'm in college, and you know, yes, I'm looking for, you know, like a real job, I would say. So I'm like, I don't think I would ever go to pageants. So, and then I got married. You know, like I graduated from, you know, I got my master's degree. So I was like, and then I became a mom. I was like, yeah, I mean, I would never, ever, ever do pageants. This is not for me. I'm not a pageant girl, right? So then last summer, I was working with one of my clients' child, and then we played a therapeutic game. And one of the things that, one of the cards that she pulled out was, there was a question, is there something you're too old to do? And she's like, well, I don't know. I can think of a lot of things I'm too young to do, but something I'm too old to do, I'm not sure. And then she turned to me and she's like, how about you? I was like, it's an interesting question. I'm like, let me think about it. I'll tell you next time I see you. And she's like, okay, I'll remember. I'll ask you. I'm like, okay. So I'm coming home, and I'm trying not to take work home. But that night, I was like, keep thinking and thinking. I'm like, is there something I'm told to do? I'm like, I know, pageants. And I was like, no, there must be division for married women. It's like once you get married and have children, is your life over? I don't think so, right? So I'm like doing my research on Google, and I was like, okay, what's the, and then I found that there is married women division, and you can be beauty queen apparently at any age. You know, like when you're 65, you still can become a beauty queen. When you're 5, you can be a beauty queen. You know, if you're interested in that direction, you can definitely pursue it. So I entered, and I was crowned in September 2016. I was crowned Mrs. Massachusetts USA Universal 2017. And I will be competing for the crown of Mrs. USA this upcoming summer in June, Reno, Nevada. Oh, so, nice. I mean, for me, I just had my second baby. I didn't think it's serious. I just wanted to enter. I wanted to, you know, have a goal for myself, just to get in shape. Yeah. I don't know.
Good excuse.
So, and then I became the title holder, and there's a lot of responsibilities came, but then it's definitely, I mean, I feel like pageants help women to get their message across. That was definitely.
And good thing you didn't bring your crown, because then we would have secret services and they would have took away from the game, right? But in all that, you know, I want to congratulate you, because that's amazing that, you know, that you're actually able to do that as well. You have a professional, serious professional therapist, as you are, family and marriage counseling, and then as well as, you know, Mrs. Massachusetts USA 2017. And I'm sure there's a lot of great things that you're going to be doing. You're going to be very involved in the community. There's a lot of devotion, passion, and you'll be, you know, doing a lot of visiting. So that's great. And you're also working on a video on your campaign. So I'll be looking forward for that video to share with our, you know, with our viewers as well, somewhere down the road. But I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and it was very informative what you brought on today.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's Common Ground for now. We'll be back.